I did want to watch Charlie's new video about Dark Souls being too hard. Yeah, it's supposed to be hard. Exactly. That's the thing. It's supposed to be hard. Why are people complaining? It's so crazy.
It's about to start raining with my tears. I'm going to go on a passionate rant here, and it might ruffle a few feathers, but you know what? Facts don't care about your feelings.
Look, Code, I know it's really hard, but listen. If I can beat it, of all the people in the world, if this stupid fucking elf can beat it, so can
The
you.
difference between
And I'm about to start spitting those. There are so many people whining about Elden Ring's DLC being too hard.
Okay, here's the thing. There's two things about this DLC, right, chat? Number one, it forces you to go explore. You have to go explore and get level up items. It's a requirement for you to play this game. That is part of the game, right, chat? If you don't like it, then don't fucking play the game. But you have to go explore. Number two, it's DLC. It's hard. It's meant to be hard. It's meant to push your limits and for you to get creative on ways to beat the bosses. So why are people fucking losing their minds? Oh, it's too hard. Guys, come on.
Years now, one of the most prevalent memes in the gaming community is how bad game journalists are at the games they review. So the community has constantly dropped trouser and taken a shit on them anytime they mention the difficulty of a game being too hard. And now that Elden Ring DLC's dropped, there are so many players that are now leaving so many negative reviews because they think the DLC is unfairly.
So basically, Elden Ring, like, if you go and look on Steam, it's getting review bombed, and it has a mixed status on Steam because basically people are like complaining, like, oh, it's too hard. Oh. So they're review bombing the game.
You either die a gamer or live long enough to see yourself become a journalist. The shoe's on the other foot here. So now there's people just fucking moaning about it being too difficult and being upset about that. Now, contrary to what some Twitter rage...
I'll bet you they've never played a day of Sekiro in their life. I bet you they've never played Kingdom Hearts on critical mode, fought any of the bosses or anything a day in their life, chat.
Engagement is trying to lead you to believe not every bad review of the DLC is about it being too difficult and like soiling their diaper about it. There are some legitimate complaints about it, like
I do agree with this. So I said this on my own post the other day, but I said, like, overall the game is gorgeous, right? It's beautiful. I'll share with you my stuff, right? I really don't like the map layout. I think the map layout is really bad. It's very confusing. If you solve a puzzle in a dungeon, literally every time, without fail, it's either you get a cookbook or it's a smithing stone. That's it. That's it, chat. Those are the rewards for half of the dungeons, which I found was very, like, unrewarding. I really didn't like that. But everything else, like, otherwise is beautiful.
A lot of people are citing performance problems, like a lot of issues with the DLC itself from the performance side of things. I haven't had any problems personally, but if that is something people are experiencing, that's a very legitimate reason to leave a bad review. There is a ton of people leaving bad reviews about the difficulty. That is actually true. It's just not all of them. There's so much to unpack here, and it's time for a little tough love. So, I am a huge fan of Souls games. My favorite genre of video game is Souls-like. I play...
Same here, chat, and you know that. Because all of the games that I play on here, like, I don't even play Smash anymore on stream. We play Souls games because I love them so much.
All of them. Not just, like, the FromSoft games, but all games in this genre.
Exactly.
So even the super stinkers like Lords of the Fallen. I try them all because I really love this genre.
I still need to try Lords of the Fallen.
And Elden Ring is tied for my favorite Souls game in existence. It's tied with Bloodborne. And the DLC...
in retrospect, now having played Bloodborne and done everything, I have to say, I agree with Charlie 100%. Like, for me, it's like Elden Ring and the Bloodborne, like, directly below it.
Gamers who said it's too hard must have a skill issue. Either get good or find another game to play. But what do I know? Haven't gotten around to play the game myself.
Right, exactly. I want you to think about all of the DLC that ever existed, right? Elden Ring's DLC is hard. And do I think the final boss, no spoilers, is the hardest FromSoft has put out. Absolutely. But do I think the DLC is the hardest compared to other DLCs? Not really. Like, I would say that it's probably up there with Bloodborne as far as difficulty goes, or Sekiro. But that's it.
I think is extremely good. It's not perfect. There are legitimate complaints to have about it,
right.
but one of them
game is
is
for everyone, and lots of people jumped on the Elden Ring bandwagon because it
right.
was the hot new thing and
right.
they wanted attention. Same with people who said they hated Animal Crossing, but when New Horizons came out they claimed they were always fans.
I agree, Pachi, because a lot of people went into this game, right? And they're like, oh, like, I'm excited to play the new DLC. You know, I'm new to Elden Ring. I'm going to tell you guys, just straight up, this DLC is not for new players. This is for the fans of Elden Ring that care about the game, that want to play it and want a challenge. I mean, if you want to play the DLC, that's great. When it comes to Elden Ring, the more prepared you are, the better. You guys know what I did. I spent all this time preparing. I came up with multiple strategies going into the DLC.
This fucking DLC comes with built-in training wheels should you choose to activate them with the scatter tree fragments. As you collect these throughout the world, you'll get a boost to your offensive and
and this is what people are not doing, right? They're not going around and getting these necessary items. These items are required for you to literally get better. Like, you need these items to be strong in the DLC. So the game encourages you to go explore, to get these items. But nobody wants to do this, and so that's why they're struggling.
Defensive capabilities, serving as a permanent boost to DLC damage dealt and negation. So if you're tired of banging your head against the wall, getting your butt cheeks blasted by whatever boss you're stuck on, make like Marco Polo and explore the land, collecting these sacred Dragon Balls here, so that way you can have an
So Sammy encourages you. Now, besides the final boss, I never had to go out of my way to go and get extra ones. At all. Ever. I literally ran through the game, went to all the areas, picked him up along the way, and beat everything. It was only until the final boss that I had to go and like actually explore all the areas and look around.
Easier time with the bosses. Or you could subscribe to the ancient belief system and just get good. Just be better. Elden Ring is also a game, really every Souls game, has always been a series, really, where it's as difficult as you make it. There are broken builds that you can use, especially in Elden Ring. There's full-blown mechanics that are there to help you through difficult challenges with some...
I mean, guys, like, you have the fist, like, I use the Star Fist build for all of my run. That build is fucking cracked. It is so good. Then, when I was having trouble with health, I switched over to the Blasphemous Blade, right? But also my entire run, I kept items that healed me or raised my defense. So there's builds that are literally built to support you through the game.
Summoning. You can just use a mimic tier to help you get through a boss. You don't have to go summonless. Like, if you're struggling to a point that you're about to cast self-destruct like a Voltorb and leave a incendiary negative review on Steam because you can't beat the dancing lion, just use a fucking summon. You aren't good enough to do it without clearly, and what are you trying to prove anyway? Just use a summon, get through the boss, and enjoy the game. Like, it's...
So, this is the argument I see from a lot of Soulsborne players that I want to address here really quick, chat. So, there is nothing wrong with using a summon. I see a lot of players that are like, oh, use the summon. You suck, get good. I am okay using anything available to me to get through the bosses, to get through the story. Why is Miyazaki gonna give us this mechanic and for somebody to say, oh, it's not okay to use it? The creators of the game put it into the game for a reason. I want to learn the bosses. I want to beat them. I wanted to, obviously as a streamer, I want to put on a good show for you guys. So I am willing by any means to push through the game by using a summon. Now, will I go through the game with no summons later? Absolutely. But I want to push through the game. I want to understand the story. I want to get the full feel of it. And then that way I can go back and do a harder run later.
It's not like you're out here trying to prove yourself as a man or whatever.
Right,
just
exactly.
Use a
what is the thought process like? Oh, like, your PP not big enough unless you beat it without a summon. Like, I don't understand this thought process having to prove yourself.
Summon in that case. Like, I saw so many reviews saying, like, I refuse to summon, but I also can't beat any of these enemies, so this DLC fucking sucks. It's poorly designed.
Right. Like,
no, you're just trash. Like, you're just trash, and you're not able to reach the challenge you've set for yourself. So, how about instead of blaming the DLC for your shortcoming, just use a summon, go grab some scatter tree fragments, and enjoy it. Like, this doesn't need to be some kind of torturous struggle. You're not held captive at Guantanamo Bay, forced to do a level 1 Wretch playthrough of the Elden Ring DLC. It's supposed to be...
I feel like with Souls games, Gray is absolutely right. I'm just going to read what Gray said, because I feel like this is a good representation. Souls' biggest difficulty is normally self-imposed. A lot of Souls' difficulty is what you do to yourself. If you're using a bad weapon, if you're using bad, talismans, like, it's all self-imposed. So if you go and look up information to get better, it will be so much easier. It's all based on knowledge and what you want to do. You do not have to go through this game going, oh, no hit, level 1, run. But that also doesn't mean that if you're struggling, right, you should review bomb the game because you're struggling. That's on you.
Be fun. And it is. It is difficult, but that's always been one of the big selling points of Souls games, that they're challenging. And people used to, again, spit on those that would insult the series for being hard. And now with this one, somehow the prevalent discussion has been about how it's too hard and they've gone too far this time. It's not...
Chat, I want to point out what Souls games are for, right? It's hard, right? But when you overcome that challenge, it feels so good. That is the point. Like, to get to that moment where you overcome the challenge in front of you. Like, it's just like human nature. Like, we have challenges in front of us every day, and to overcome that challenge is part of being human. That's why we fucking climb Mount Everest. For everybody that was here, that experienced the win of beating the final boss together, that moment felt so fucking good. Even thinking about that moment right now makes me smile.
Not just Steam reviews, I've actually seen streamers saying the same thing, which is, it's blowing my mind. Like, I actually am shocked that we're at this point where everything needs to be so hand-holdy that now if you can't complete your challenge run of Elden Ring because the DLC is a little more brutal than what you're used to, it's the game's fault. And
but I do get the frustration because it is
fucking tough. Buffs, use summons. Like, there's so many options for you to get through this DLC, and just...
I think getting to the point where you say you want to quit the game, to me, is kind of crazy.
Because you're struggling to get through it with a challenge you've set for yourself isn't the DLC's fault. There are real criticisms for it, though. For instance, I'm going through this DLC, and I play all of Souls games summonless. I like to have it at the most optimal challenge imaginable, because that's the most fun for me in these kind of games. So I've been doing a punch-only build, and I've switched it to a punch-and-kick-only build now with martial arts, and it's been extremely challenging and extremely rewarding. However, there have been 2 bosses so far that are actually not well made. One of them is Commander Gaius, Hog Rider. Hog Rider has 2 moves.
I'm gonna agree with that. So, how many tries did it take us for Commander Gaius, chat? 3? I think it took us 3 tries. A lot of his moves are just like undodgeable, or they seem undodgeable. And the way that he does his stuff, he only has like a certain amount of moves, like maybe like 3 moves. So I don't really like that boss. I don't think he's very well built.
Moves that come out where the hitboxes don't match the animations. So his charge,
and that's fair.
If you dodge it perfectly, sometimes you will still take the full impact, which often one-taps you. And also his, like, I don't even know what to call this move, but where he, like, flails around randomly and, like, fucking throws his head around like he's headbanging at a fucking Bullet for My Valentine concert from 2006. That move will hit you pretty much anywhere unless you're in his butthole. So anything aside from his colon, you're still going to take damage from.
So I will say this, running a fist build, it forces you to be in their face all the time, right? And I think a lot of players that play Elden Ring kind of play in that mid to long range. Like, they prefer to fight in a safe area, right? And I think the DLC is so different because it forces you to fight in their face all the time. Like, a lot of bosses have a move where they will instantly attack you, so you can't summon your mimic. And it's really like you gotta stay in their face the whole time. So I'm used to that playstyle anyway. That's nothing new to me. So I think that's why people are kind of like struggling a little bit, because they're not used to that fight style.
Even if you do roll it right, at least most of the time. Bad set of moves is Mesmer. I actually really like Mesmer. I think he's a very, very, very cool boss. Took me 27 tries, so far that is the boss that's taken me the most amount of tries in all of Elden Ring on my punch-only run. And he was fantastic, except for one thing. His phase 2, he summons snakes. The snakes' hitboxes are so fucking janky. The snake hitboxes actually are almost non-functional sometimes, like in the worst possible way.
The snakes are a little weird, but you know, we did get through him, right? And the boss battle was really cool.
Like what you're seeing.
Yeah, Deathbloom's already beat the DLC, and I beat all the bosses. I did a marathon.
Doesn't match what you're experiencing. Like the snake will completely fucking miss you, but then you'll still get hit sometimes. So that was a bit of a headache. So there is some jankiness to it that you can criticize. But to be leaving such terrible reviews only because it's difficult is absolutely juvenile. That shit is so embarrassing. This is some of the best DLC I played. FromSoft, I think, has always crushed it with their DLC.
But I think the biggest thing that you have to remember is, like, even if there's jank, right? That doesn't mean that you should review bomb the game. That doesn't ruin the entire DLC.
And this one's no exception. I don't think it's their best DLC. I still like Bloodborne's DLC the most, but I really, really appreciate this. This is the biggest DLC I've ever played. I'm not a big DLC guy. I'd rather just get another game down the line as opposed to like a little snack of something I already enjoyed. I'd rather just get something else later that's bigger. But this
and I have to say, the Bloodborne DLC is probably my favorite besides this DLC.
I've already pumped like 15, 16 hours in, and I still haven't finished. I'm loving it. It's huge. It really does.
It took me about 30 hours to beat all the bosses, including the fume giants and all of the optional bosses, like even the little stuff. So it's about a 30-hour DLC for me. It's probably maybe like anywhere from like 30 to 50 hours for the average player.
An Elden Ring 1.5, like it's that big. It has that much meat on its bones. The girth is impressive, and the music is beautiful.
You know what's fucking nuts about this is Miyazaki's like, oh, the DLC is like the size of Limgrave, and he proceeds to drop a whole fucking game. It's kind of crazy.
I love the new area. I love almost all of the new bosses, except here's a criticism that I think some people might not agree with. I'm pretty upset with how many bosses are mounted. I've already fought so many mounted bosses, and I think mounted enemies are kind of the lamest. Because the movesets are pretty derivative, like they're pretty similar, and I just don't really like the way mounted enemies fight, because usually it's a spam these couple of moves, then run away, and you're forced to kind of chase them for the punish window, as opposed...
That is true. Like, there is a mounted boss that, he's really, really big. He has a really, really big sword, and it does feel like that he runs away quite a bit, so you have to kind of wait for him to approach you. His punish window is very small. He's down in this big cave. But yeah, I feel like I agree with that boss in particular.
Opposed to getting a punish right after the moves, you gotta have to fucking chase them to get a little punish. And I don't really like that much, but
I don't like that
it's not the biggest deal in the world. I've been really loving the DLC, but absolutely hating the conversation around it in regards to the difficulty of it. I don't think it's too hard, but I have always said that the challenge of the Souls-like genre is something that's always going to be a bit restrictive to some people. Not everyone's going to appreciate that, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like,
the game is very hard, and that's okay. It's not for everybody. But don't review bomb the game just because you suck at it.
If it's just not your cup of tea, that's totally fine to just say like, hey, I don't really like the challenge of this, so it's not for me.
Hey,
that
Mario,
I have always understood, and I've mentioned that before in Moist Meters for previous Souls games. It is just very understandable to not want a really big challenge.
Exactly.
But for the Elden Ring DLC, these aren't just the normal, casual players coming in out of nowhere. The only way you get to the DLC is if you've already done a lot in the base game.
I didn't really think about that, and that's a good point that Charlie brings up. You're already having to do a lot to get into the DLC. So it really shocks me that all of these people are complaining about it because you've already fought some kind of hard bosses to even get to this point.
So you should already be familiar with the challenge Elden Ring presents. Thus, going
Exactly.
into the DLC, I really think you should have come in with the understanding that it's going to be hard. It shouldn't be hard. If it was anything less than difficult, it'd be very disappointing and a far cry from what
Exactly.
made this genre so special in the first place. And I don't think they've done anything, you know, nefarious with the scaling of the difficulty here. It's not too hard. You're making it harder on yourself by not collecting the material they put in here to
Preach! Preach, Charlie! People are not actually picking up the items that will directly help you for the game. They just fucking avoid it! Have you seen both endings, Elden Ring? Do you mean the base game or what? Yeah, what do you mean? Yeah, like, and at the end of the day, Rich Kid, like, people don't have to buy the DLC. It's literally a skill issue.
To make it easier, or not using certain mechanics to make it easier
Exactly.
with summoning or sorceries or really strong
I've
weapons
seen all the
that have
endings.
really good abilities.
I think it's
there are
fine.
so many options that you can use here to help you through the challenging portions of this game. And you can't start pointing the fucking finger at the game itself just because you're refusing to do those things because you think it's beneath you or something, or maybe it's shameful. I don't really know. But it's not the DLC's fault that you want to go through the game in the most difficult way imaginable and then be
Exactly.
mad about that.
If somebody does like a level 1 run with no summons or a no hit level 1 run, that's your choice. That's not the game's choice. That's you applying your choices to the game with all the options that it presents you.
When you have all the power in the world not to, you can just use something better or go get the scattered tree fragments. Like, you have so many options. So I really think it's a very weak reason to be, you know, leaving such terrible reviews of the DLC. Like I said, there are real reasons not to like it. Like, it's not perfect. Nothing ever is. A lot of reviews I've seen point to performance problems. I haven't had any performance problems, but if that is a prevalent issue with the DLC, then that's something that does make sense too.
On PC, I mean, I was running a bunch of programs, so maybe it's just me, but I did it a few times where it kind of like, I would frame drop and it would kind of skip and then it would, you know, kind of move forward. So I don't know if that's just me and what was all playing on my PC. I mean, I was only like maybe 70% CPU usage, so I wouldn't think so, but you know, that could be legitimate.
Like, that would be a reason to leave a negative review. Nothing wrong with that. It's just calling it too difficult is so silly. I can't believe we've reached this point now. It's very interesting to see. That's about it. See ya.
A lot of people are review bombing the DLC, but there's so many other games out there that are really hard that nobody attacks. I don't get a chat. So what do you think, everybody, about this whole DLC debacle? Do you think they're right? Do you think they're wrong? Do you think they just need to get good? What do you guys think? Thank you so much to all my Ko-Fi and Discord boosters. If you want to see your name here, consider supporting with the Ko-Fi link below.